Hey, good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint. How you doing on this Tuesday? The legal, lawful, constitutional tender. It's what I do. It's what my company does. It's what we've been doing for, 2.5 decades now? Almost, not quite. Closing in on 2.5 decades, talking about gold and silver. I like to call it wealth insurance. You know, just look at it this way. It's never a straight line. But if you want to know where gold is heading, follow the debt. There you go. It's just that simple. The higher the debt goes, the higher gold's going to be. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com, allamericangold.com. The pullback for gold and silver that occurred Thursday and Friday, kind of finishing off here. Gold is actually down a little bit today, not a lot, a couple of dollars, $14.97, $14.98. Silver is actually a little higher today at $18.06. The Dow's down some. Crazy things are happening, and some of it's just dumb, flat out dumb. But let's start first. So in the last 5 minutes, the president, through Twitter, has announced that he has fired National Security Advisor John Bolton. I don't have any other details on that other than the president announced on Twitter that he had fired John Bolton and that a new National Security Advisor is going to be named next week. Don't have any other details. Is that because of the failure in Venezuela? Is that because of North Korea, Iran? I don't know. But either way, John Bolton is out. And then this one broke. These two stories broke at the same time. Boeing. Okay, you know the aircraft company, right? They make the planes. Huge part of GDP in the United States, by the way. And, of course, we know the issues that they're having. Their stock is up 2% today on the news that they delivered 18 planes in August. Last August, they delivered 64 planes. And they said so far this year, Boeing's delivered 276 planes compared to the 481 planes that they delivered last year. In other words, it's getting worse and worse the longer this drags out. And the issue they've had, I guess they had another issue with another test on these planes that they can't seem to figure out what the heck is wrong. They said that the root cause assessment continues. We do not expect that it's going to have a significant impact on aircraft design or overall test program. We remain fully focused on the safety as our highest priority. Actually, it wasn't that high, was it? Right? Because if it had been the highest priority, right, these planes you wouldn't have put them out there. Right? Obviously, we know that now. But anyway, apparently that was good news. I did not know that. The Wall Street Journal said the planes, it wasn't the planes. This was in regards to the 777X. This was not in regards to the 737 MAX that apparently was the one where they'd make it crash and kill people. So apparently safety is paramount for the 777X. Just wasn't that way for the 777 MAX. By the way, here's what's interesting about this. Boeing shares are up 14% so far this year, right? So let's see. You're not delivering any planes. You haven't been able to fix the issue of the planes that killed those people. and your stock's up 14%. That sounds about right. Welcome to Wall Street. This is, and again, is Boeing going out of business? No. I don't think so. Are they eventually going to figure out how to make this plane fly in the air and not kill people? I'm sure that they will. But again, I guess, hey, you know what? I guess no bad deeds go punished, right? Stock's up 14%. So there you go. Congratulations. I wonder what, I don't know. I don't know how that even makes sense. But when we get back, I got trade war news. And and it's going to be quick. It's going to be painless. I promise. There's actually really no news to report. But I know if you go out there, they're going to tell you about all these great developments in the trade talks. Remember, it's not about trade. It's all about the new superpower that is China. And we're going to talk all about that. I will say this, though. One of the reports has to do with the Chinese Premier President Xi Jinping about what he thinks about Donald Trump. So this was actually coming out of a meeting that he had with the Japanese Prime Minister. So a bunch of things there that we'll go over. We'll cover those in the next segment. Has Wall Street whipping around today. Because remember, Wall Street's nothing but headline news anymore. Welcome back, Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. Yeah, Bolton is out. The president saying that he disagreed with Bolton's ideas, and so did everybody else, and now he's out. And that was kind of the latest headlines coming out of there. But early this morning, and really since I was gone, there's been this talk about how, you know, the China's coming for a meeting here in October, and there's new hopes for this trade deal and all this stuff, and it's just a bunch of baloney. Today, let me tell you what they're saying today is China has said, now they don't say who said it, but it doesn't matter. Somebody there said, hey, if you guys want, we'll gladly buy more agricultural products if we can figure out a deal, right? And so the headline news now that is, I guess, the media comes out that, oh, we're going to have a deal. China's ready to do this and that. That's been on the table from the very beginning. China's been saying they'll buy more stuff from us since this whole thing started. Right? That's not new. That matter. It's almost like when you remember when you were watching CNN. I don't watch it, but when every other sentence they mentioned Trump and Russia, right? And it was like, who can even watch this stuff anymore, right? And this same thing. I don't know how many times Wall Street can, quote unquote, rally on news that China's willing to buy more agricultural products. They didn't want to stop buying them to begin with. And so anyway, that was the story. But there was, and here's the thing. Here's why it had to come out. So why is that? Why are they acting like this is a big deal? And really the issue is what came out earlier this morning. And it was probably, I don't know, about 7 o'clock Arizona time. Having to do with Chinese President Xi Jinping in his meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister. And this meeting was taking place during the G20. So you got to, think back. Remember in late July, this is really, gold started to rally several weeks after the G20 meeting. Remember, we took a time out China said then, remember? China said then, hey, we'll buy some more we're going to buy some more agricultural products. We're ready. And then it didn't happen. We're starting to get some insight as to what it was that really, really happened. According to CCTV, which says that U.S. delegates say they are hopeful they can achieve progress and reach a deal with the Chinese premier. And they said, of course, listen, again, standard line. If you talk to Robert Lighthizer, if you talk to Steve Mnuchin, they all say, hey, we're hopeful. Right? Because what are they really going to say? Hey, what? Hey, listen, you know what? China doesn't want to stop being a communist country, so I don't think we can have a deal. Right? They don't want to say that. Matter of fact, they'll probably get fired for saying it because what happened? Wall Street crashes. We already know. Wall Street crashes. Right? So now Wall Street, back near, again for like the last 2 years now, right near these all-time highs. And everyone, no, we're hopeful for a deal. We're hopeful for a deal. Why? Give me one reason why. Can't find one. Well, today, the new reason is, China wants to buy more agricultural product again, right? Now, this thing's been going on for like 2 years. What is this, the 20th time they've said it? How many more times do they need to say it? I've said it all along. Listen, China will buy all kinds of stuff. They will. But this isn't a trade war. It's not about that. But let me tell you what got reported and why they had to come out with that. According to the article, they said that the Chinese premier was quoted as saying China and the United States should find solutions to disputes based on consensus reached by leaders of the two nations, adding that China treats domestic foreign companies fairly and puts more focus on intellectual property protection, noting that companies, including U.S. firms, are welcome to increase investment in China. Now, what's he saying? Very simply put, we don't treat U.S. companies any differently than we treat our own. And guess what? That's a true story. As far as I know, absolutely true. We don't make Apple or Google or Microsoft or name the Boeing, Cisco Systems, right? General Motors, Ford, right? We don't treat them any different than our own. Right? And our own companies, guess what? They got to tell us everything. Right? And so your companies get treated just as fairly. By the way, hey, if you guys want to do more investing in China, come on. We're happy to have you. We're going to treat you the same way we've always treated you, which is the exact way we treat everybody. Why? Well, because that's how communism works. Now, here's where the real issue came. The president of China, in a meeting with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in June, was said to have told Abe, I can't believe what President Trump says concerning trade negotiations during a meeting on the fringe of the Group of 20 meeting in Osaka. And while Abe told Xi that Trump trusts the Chinese president, in other words, Abe's like, well, I talked to Trump. Trump, he trusts you. Xi continued to air his grievances about the U.S. counterpart. and this was out of a source from Kyoto News. The reason for the distrust, despite agreeing to President Xi's proposal on the phone. Now, this is not the phone calls from the other week, right? Because those phone calls never happened. To deal with Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei. So here was the deal according to the Chinese president. Hey, let's take a time out, right? This is before, Trump was like, hey, we're going to put off on hold the tariffs that were supposed to go into effect, right, September 1st, and then got moved to September 1st and December 15th, right? Those tariffs, they were put on hold during this phone call. So this is back in June. The reason they were put on hold, we were told, was, hey, China's going to buy agricultural products. Okay, that was the reason. Then when it didn't happen, Trump said, you know what, they're not doing what they said. Here come the tariffs. According to what was being reported this morning, Xi says that wasn't the deal. The deal was that the president was going to, I guess, work out some form of arrangement with Huawei, right? And again, right? And here's the thing. Huawei's not doing anything our own companies don't do. I know it sounds, oh my God, they're putting all this spy stuff in. Come on, right? Our whole life we're spied on now. You got a cell phone, you're spied on. You're in your car, you're spied on, right? You got Alexa or the Nest. You got one of those doorbells that got the camera on it. You're being spied on. It's 5G, nothing but glorified spying devices. So he said that once the negotiations began, so they get put on hold. According to the Chinese president, he said the deal was we were going to talk about Huawei. And that if Huawei was resolved, then we would buy more agricultural products. He said, but once the negotiations began, the U.S. side said that Huawei is not a trade issue, but a national security issue, and did not deal with it, pointing out that Trump's remarks proved unreliable. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Xi had a telephone conference with Trump on June 18th. During which he expressed China's hopes that the U.S. side can treat Chinese firms in a fair manner. He complained to Abe that while the Trump administration has repeatedly criticized Beijing for supporting state-owned company with subsidies, the U.S. is also providing Boeing and other companies with subsidies themselves. Right? And, of course, obviously, it's not a trade war issue. So, this news broke this morning that the real deal was if you do something with Huawei, we'll buy more food. When the negotiations started, China said, you know what? They said Huawei was off the table, so we never bought more stuff. So now today, miraculously, guess what? That deal's back on the table. China's like, hey, listen, if you guys want to fix Huawei, then we'll buy more food. So there you go. There's the new trade news that isn't new at all. Right? China will buy more food from us anytime as soon as we're done with whatever it is we're doing. It has nothing to actually do with what we want, though. You know, that's the part that really is baffling. It's not even baffling. You got to remember, this was a communist nation, you would have thought that this would have been the big, before a single U.S. company went to China. You would have thought that, man, that's got to be the first thing on the table. Hey, if we come here, what protections do we have? And the answer was none. You don't have any protection. But they went anyway. So, and again, we were more than happy. Listen, we don't care that China builds everything. We should, but we don't. Matter of fact, we're still happy to have that happen. What we don't want, though, is what? Hey, China, you can't be out there stealing our friends and allies. Right? That's really what it's all about. So, there you have it. That's what the whole trade thing's all about, I guess. Huawei and food. If you believe that, don't call me.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report, a daily broadcast from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, a national volunteer organization founded by Phyllis Schlafly and continuing to uphold her legacy by honoring family values, opposing radical feminism, and representing a conservative perspective in our nation's capital. Now, the president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, Ed Martin.
For years, the Washington Post and the New York Times set the agenda for the White House, even when there was a Republican president. White House staff were assigned to read those newspapers each morning, and then reports would be given to the president and vice president so they could plan their statements accordingly. After 4 or 8 years of that process, it was difficult to point to any long-term accomplishments by the Republican administrations that did this. But President Trump is showing how important it is to take initiative in dealing with a hostile Congress and hostile media. The late Phyllis Schlafly often emphasized the importance of being able to define the terms of a debate. Trump is successfully taking a similar approach. Democrats just can't keep up with the force of Trump's narrative. Even leftist activists are starting to realize that Democrats just can't beat Trump. A prime example of this is Michael Moore, who you might know as the guy who made a conspiracy theory movie against George W. Bush. Moore desperately wants Trump to lose in 2020, but even he admits Trump will likely win. Moore has been critical of the Democrat frontrunner Joe Biden as an opponent of Trump next fall. Moore also lambasted his fellow Democrats for trying to set their agenda based on Robert Mueller. Moore called Mueller a frail old man, unable to remember things, stumbling, refusing to answer basic questions. Moore then turned up the heat and complained about all you pundits and moderates and lame Democrats who told the public to put their faith in the esteemed Robert Mueller. Michael Moore was so spot on in his rebuke of Mueller and the Democrats that Trump retweeted Moore's comments, chuckling all the way about how even Michael Moore agrees with Donald Trump. There's no one among the 24 candidates vying for the Democrat nomination who can match Trump's ability to reach and connect with the American people. Instead, the Democrats are relegated to the second-class status of continually responding to the issues Trump wants them to talk about, especially, as you may have noticed, with Baltimore and the horrible conditions of our Democrat-controlled inner cities.
This has been the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. The hypocrisy and lies of the liberal media are alarming and even incite public unrest. But the fake news and the commentators who slant coverage are finally being exposed. At phyllisschlafly.com, we promise to provide timely alerts and take effective action on your behalf. That's phyllisschlafly.com. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for the Phyllis Schlafly Report.
Hey, welcome back, 800-951-0592. So, all the distraction, because that's what it is. Yesterday, the federal deficit surpassed $1 trillion. We still have September to go. There's debate as to whether or not we'll have a surplus in September. The only way that would be possible, because, you do have companies that pay quarterly taxes. It will depend on how the calendar falls for the Social Security, Medicare payments, right? So if there's a possibility that we could finish just under $1 trillion, it could happen. I'm not smart enough to figure out the calendar. I can barely read. But right now, the deficit stands at $1.068 trillion for the first 11 months of the fiscal year. So congratulations, right? We've done it. You think about why is gold rallying? It's, they want you to believe that gold can rise or fall with trade war. That's not why. It does. Listen, it helps. But things are starting to really ramp up. Here's the problem, right? Every year we add a couple $100 billion more. And remember, this year's growth is less. Right, so last year's growth was better. So that couple $100 billion is probably going to go up another, call it $300 billion, maybe $400 billion the next year, right? Because every year, just because of debt obligations, whether it be interest on the debt, whether it be Social Security, Medicare, all of those things, right? We start adding hundreds of billions of dollars. And then, how's the economy doing? The economy keeps slowing, right? That we got to add more. If you go into recession, you got to add a lot more. And then, and again, the real bad news, we still got 3 years. It's only 2019 now. 2020 starts October 1st for the federal government. In 2 years, so 2020, then you got 2021. Starting in 2022, the big part of the debt cycle goes, okay? Today, and again, I've been telling you this, but anyway, Citigroup today. Gold prices, and I'm going to quote you here, will trade stronger for longer. I like that. Stronger for longer. Topping $2,000 to the ounce and posting new highs in the next year. And they gave themselves a little room. Or two. Okay, let me give you my phone number. 800-951 0592. Yesterday I ran $20 Liberties at $1,600. Gold's down like $3 or $4. So I've got them at $1,595. Okay, so you think, again, not even $100 over spot. Citigroup is admitting, yeah, and I think their next year is probably the right number. 2,000 next year. But here's the thing. It's not like they say and then it stops. Oh, no. That's not what's going to happen. We now expect spot gold prices to trade stronger for longer, posting new cyclical highs at some point in the next year or two. And from a bird's eye view, they said that lower for longer nominal and real interest rates, right? That's our, right? We're getting ready. We're going to have a bunch of rate cuts next week. Escalating global recession risk, made worse by U.S.-China trade tensions. And again, it's not a trade war. Heightened geopolitical rifts amid rich equity and credit market valuations. Right? That's their way of politely saying, yeah, with these stock market prices, they're way too high. Right? I'll use Boeing as the example. Boeing has problems right now. How can it be up 14%? Right? You know what I'm saying? Same thing. Coupled with strong central bank and investor buying activity are all combining to buttress a bullish gold market environment. While consolidation is likely in the near term, right? They're pointing out to the little pullback here. The bullish Platinum over the next 12 months, not the platinum, the metal, but that's done well too, by the way. Over the last 12 months, to our expectations of improvement and all of the other things. Oh, by the way, I apologize. Citi's also making a platinum call today. I didn't realize that. They're saying that platinum improvement in the platinum as well. So there you go. Citigroup, gold, stronger for longer, new all-time record highs in the next 12 to 24 months from Citigroup today. And you know what? Here's what was amazing. So, and again, it's every once in a while, you get a little truth out there. Yesterday, it happened. There was a big study. A.B. Bernstein came up with the calculations, okay? They were talking about the potential for the U.S. and the all-encompassing measure of debt. Now, right now, we say, the debt's, I don't know where we're at, 105, 110% of GDP. And then they'll say, oh, well, it's only, 80 or 78% is held by, the public. The rest of it's private stuff, shell game stuff, right? They don't count, we don't want to count what the central bank's holding. Forget about them and the trust fund and this and that, right? It doesn't matter. 100%, right? Remember, Greece went nuts after it broke 150%. They're now saying that if you add up all U.S. debt, not just government debt, corporate debt, pump pensions, and liabilities, they got a brand new number. I'll share it with you next. 800-951-0592. I don't know what else to tell you. This is when you need to buy. Buy the dip. Buy the dip. Think about what Citi just said. Hey, listen, 2,000 in the next year or two. And obviously, it's not stopping at 2,000, right? If we break 2,000, my guess is, this is just a guess, right? We're going to at least 3. If you follow the pattern, and I say follow the pattern because you've got to remember, most of the trading is done by computers because they like the patterns, right? Pattern, right? You hear it all the time. Come up with all this fancy jargon. Then you're probably looking at 4,000. Well, I think the exact number was like 42 something. Right? Buying a $20 gold piece at $15.95 and it going to 42 something, I think you'd be pretty happy with that. 800-951-0592. National debt. The small number just went over a trillion. That's not even the big number. Right? We passed $1 trillion big number like 3 months ago. Now A.B. Bernstein said, hey, you know what? When you add up really all the real debt, it's not 100% of GDP. How about 1,832% by including not only the traditional levels of public debt like bonds, but also financial debt and all its complexities, right? Which is, those dark pools, right? Let's not forget about those. Oh, by the way, when you go to future obligations, like the so-called, here's what I love the word they used, for so-called entitlement programs. So-called? See, you're not entitled to them. And A.B. Bernstein knows it. Like Social Security, Medicare, and pensions. What? Oh, yeah. Well, you listen, those of you that have pensions, you're on the clock. A lot of people that have you know what I'm talking. A lot of people out there know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you had a pension. Then what happened? Right? It's not guaranteed anything. You could end up with zero. Period. Social Security, Medicare, government doesn't have to pay. Supreme Court already ruled on that one. Putting all that together paints a daunting picture, Bernstein said, but one that requires nuance to understand. No, it doesn't. It's easy to understand. You had it right. It's pretty easy. Paramount is realizing not all of the debt obligations are set in stone. I love it. Here's somebody that's willing to tell you the truth that isn't me. Willing to tell you the truth. Listen, either you get ready or you don't. Period. You are going to call. I know you'll call. If you've been listening, you're going to call. I just hope it's before it's 2,000. I hope you call before 4,000. Not all debt obligations are set in stone. And it's important to know where the leeway is. I think he's right. Where is the leeway? I mean, we got to, we heard it forever. The U.S. not paying its debt obligations would be catastrophic. Bernstein agrees. Now, that's not where it is. We got to pay that. Yeah. The interest payments, right, all that, we got to pay. Yeah, got to pay that. Well, then where is it? Where's this leeway you talk about? Did he talk about financial stuff, right? The dark pools and all that? Nope. He says the leeway, particularly, is in government programs that can be changed by either legislation or accounting. Yeah, we just changed. This is what's going to happen. I mean, they're going to give you less. They're going to take out more. Your taxes are going up. I'm sorry. I don't want it to be, and I don't mean to laugh. How do you think we're going to pay for this stuff? Right? And so he said, hey, listen, it's going to be fine because the government can just change it all. Before they default, they won't send you a check. Believe that. Before they would default, you won't get a check. Right? And I'll talk about Greece. Right? What did they do? They essentially took these government programs, pensions, Social Security, Medicare, and just whacked it. Whacked it. And then for all the people still working, how much they had to pay to support it went way up, right? It was the double whammy. Hey, we're going to give you 40% less, and by the way, everybody's still working, you got to pay 40% more. And A.B. Bernstein came out, this was yesterday. Let's see, government debt, the small number broke $1 trillion. Then they come out and say, hey, the real debt obligation, if we really added it up with real math, will be 1,800 and whatever percent. And all of a sudden, Citigroup says, hey, gold's going to be $2,000 an ounce in a year or two. 800-951-0592. How much does your portfolio weigh? That's really the question. The debt doesn't stop. Americans carrying larger credit card balances, according to the latest Federal Reserve study. Credit, they said, total credit. Okay, this is for us. Okay, this is the consumer. Rose by $23 billion, exceeding all estimates from the Federal Reserve figures released yesterday. Revolving debt increased. Now, revolving debt is your credit cards. Increased by $10 billion. One of the largest increases in years. These are increases you would see like for Christmas. And they said the rest of it was what they call non-revolving credit. That's your student and auto loans. That actually was kind of flat. So the extra $13 billion of revolving credit. The month before it was $14 billion. So looks like probably bought a few less cars again. But the one thing that stood out was the consumer used the credit card. But now they're saying, is it possible that because they didn't pay the credit? Well, let's just say they spent more than they paid, and the bigger credit card statements may indicate households feel they are overextended and may become more tentative about spending. Listen, there's only one reason people don't pay their credit cards, right? Because they don't have the money. Otherwise, right? I mean, otherwise we just pay them off every month, right? The reason I don't pay off my credit card is because I don't have the money. It's not because I'm feeling this, that, or the other. It's just a matter of, hey, somebody was dumb enough to lend me money I don't have, and I used it. Right? And I'll make my minimum payments and whatnot, and then here's the, the problem is credit card. Here's the thing that really gets me, though. You would think with the Fed's funds rates way down here, right? We're talking about going to zero, and everybody expects the Fed to cut rates next week. The 10-year notes at almost a new all-time record low. That credit card interest rates would be lower, right? That would make sense. They just hit a new all-time record high. 800-951-0592. We got the $20 Liberties, the gold pieces at $1,595. Yesterday we were running those rolls of dimes at $70. Silver's actually up a little bit today. I'll still run those at $70. So you get $5 less on the gold pieces today, $15.95. Same price on rolls of silver dimes. There's 50 dimes in the roll. They're at $70 at 800-951-0592. A really interesting day. It was kind of nice, though. I like to hear the actual deal that China thought they made with Trump versus what Trump says they made. Kind of interesting. Huawei for food is the deal. We'll see what happens. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back tomorrow.